9 experienced hikers vanished in the dead of winter in the Soviet Union. When their bodies were discovered weeks later, it wasn't just a tragedy. It was a riddle, a nightmare, a scene that made even hardened Soviet investigators recoil. Their tent had been slashed open from the inside. Some fled barefoot into -30 degrees Celsius winds. One was missing her tongue. Another had their skull crushed. And several had internal injuries so severe they were compared to car crash victims. Yet there were no external wounds. Oh, and did I mention? Some of their clothing was radioactive. This is the Dyatlov Pass Incident. And to this day, no one knows what truly happened that night. Let's rewind. January 1959. Sverdlovsk Oblast, Soviet Russia. A group of 10 hikers, students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, set out on what was meant to be a challenging, but not life-threatening, ski trek across the Ural Mountains. Led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, the group included 8 men and 2 women, all in their early 20s. They were seasoned adventurers, well-trained in survival, navigation, and winter expeditions. This was not a careless group of thrill-seekers. They were organized, disciplined, and methodical. Their goal? To reach Otorten, a remote peak deep in the northern Urals, a place the indigenous Mansi people referred to as, "Don't go there." Now, that sounds like ominous folklore, but to these hikers, it was just another summit to conquer. As they set off, one member, Yuri Yudin, began to suffer from health issues, sciatica, and joint pain. He made the difficult decision to turn back and head home. That decision would ultimately save his life. The rest continued forward into the wilderness. They would never be seen alive again. Weeks passed. Families grew worried. The hikers had missed their return date. Search and rescue teams, volunteers, students, soldiers were dispatched. After days of combing the snowy landscape, the team finally located the missing hikers' tent on the eastern slope of a mountain in the Mansi called Kolytsayakl, Mountain of the Dead. What they found sent chills through even the most battle-hardened searchers. The tent was half buried in snow, but what stood out was how it had been opened. It was slashed open from the inside, as if the hikers had cut their way out in a panic. Inside the tent, boots, clothing, gear, everything they needed to survive was left behind. Outside, barefoot footprints, some partial, some clear, leading away from the tent into the dark, freezing night. The first 2 bodies were found under a large cedar tree, nearly 1.5 kilometers from the tent. They were dressed only in underwear. Their hands were scraped and bloodied, as if they had tried to climb the tree in desperation. 3 more bodies were found scattered between the tree and the tent, as if they had been trying to crawl back. Their positions suggested they had collapsed from exhaustion or exposure. The final 4 were found much later, in a ravine, buried under several feet of snow. These bodies told a far darker story. Autopsies revealed shocking injuries. One hiker, Ludmila Dubinina, had her tongue removed cleanly. Her ribs were broken. Another, Nikolai Thibault-Brignoles, had a crushed skull, as if struck with enormous force. 2 others had shattered ribs, yet again, no external bruising or signs of struggle. Medical experts were baffled. These were not injuries sustained by falling or hypothermia. They were consistent with massive pressure, as if the hikers had been hit by a blast or a violent force. And then there was the radiation. 2 of the hikers had traces of radioactive material on their clothing. Where it came from, no one could explain. Adding to the mystery, many of the hikers' skin had turned an unnatural orange tint, and their hair had a grayish hue. Now, taken individually, any of these anomalies might be explained away. But together, they formed a chilling, incoherent picture. And so the theories began. The first and most accepted explanation was an avalanche. The theory goes, a slab of snow broke loose and slid down the slope, hitting the tent. In a panic, the group cut their way out and fled, some without shoes or coats. But here's the problem. There was no evidence of an avalanche, no broken trees, No debris, no flattened snow around the tent, and the tent itself, still partially standing. The footprints outside were preserved, something that would have been impossible had tons of snow come crashing down. Besides, why run over a mile in your socks into the freezing cold? Another theory, Soviet military involvement. Some believe the hikers stumbled into a secret military test site. Perhaps parachute mines or sonic weapons were being tested, explaining the strange internal injuries. Others point to the presence of radioactive clothing, possibly fallout from nearby weapons tests. After all, this was 1959, the Cold War. Secrets were state policy. Some even suggest that the Soviet government covered it all up, releasing vague, incomplete reports and classifying documents for decades. Could the hikers have seen something they weren't meant to see? And if they did, who or what silenced them? And then there are the theories that defy science. The indigenous Mansi people believed the mountains were sacred, guarded by spirits. Did the hikers disrespect something ancient? Some say a Yeti, or Menk, was responsible. A towering creature stalking the group in the snow. Adding fuel to this, a photograph taken by the group. A blurry, dark figure stands in the distance, tall, human-like, watching. And then there were reports from locals, orange lights in the sky that night. Bright spheres moving silently. UFOs? Secret aircraft? Or something stranger? We'll never know, because everyone who could explain what really happened is gone. Here's what we do know. Something caused 9 young people, fit, trained, experienced, to flee their only shelter in the middle of the night without proper clothing in sub-zero temperatures. They did not run blindly. They ran with purpose, in fear, in chaos. They split up. Some tried to make a fire. Others returned for the tent. The final group kept moving into the forest, perhaps looking for help, perhaps running from something that refused to let them go. Whatever happened out there, it wasn't hypothermia, it wasn't confusion, it was terror. Today, Dyatlov Pass is a desolate, wind-swept slope marked only by a monument to the 9 lost souls. The case has been closed, reopened, and closed again, each time with more questions than answers. Maybe it was a freak natural disaster. Maybe it was a government experiment gone wrong. Or maybe it was something we're not meant to understand. But the mystery lingers. The silence screams. And every winter, when the winds return to Koletsyakhl, they whisper the same question. What did they see? So now I ask you, what do you think happened that night at Dyatlov Pass? Leave your theory in the comments. Let's see how deep this rabbit hole really goes. And if you love stories that blend history, horror, and mystery, hit that subscribe button, because I've got a dozen more just like this. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay safe, and remember, some mountains don't want to be climbed.